This AI doesn't just help you do your job anymore, it can replace the entire thing, not parts of it, not small tasks, the whole job. And that's where things start to feel very different. Because for years, AI has been described as a tool, something that assists you, something that makes your work easier. But that version of AI is already becoming outdated. Right now, a new type of system is being developed. And instead of helping humans complete tasks, it is starting to complete entire workflows on its own, from start to finish. And that changes everything, because a task is just one step, but a workflow is the entire process. And if AI can handle the entire process, the role of the human starts to disappear. Think about how most jobs actually work. They are not just one action. They are a chain of steps. You receive information, you analyze it, you make decisions, you take action, you communicate results. That is a workflow. And until recently, AI could only assist with parts of that. It could write a paragraph. It could summarize a document. It could help you brainstorm ideas, but it still needed you to connect everything together. That's what made humans necessary. But now, something is changing. AI agents are being designed to handle the entire chain. You give them a goal, and they figure out how to complete it. They open the tools, they gather the data, they process it, they generate output, and they deliver results, all without constant human input. That is a completely different level of capability. Because now AI is not just a tool, it is starting to act like a system. And systems replace processes, not just tasks. This is already being tested. Companies are experimenting with AI agents that can manage workflows like customer support, internal operations, and data analysis. At first, these systems are used as assistants, helping employees move faster. But over time, something begins to shift. The AI starts handling more steps, then most steps, and eventually, the entire workflow. And when that happens, the human role becomes smaller, not immediately removed, but gradually reduced. And that is how real change happens. Not all at once, but step by step. And right now, we are at the beginning of that shift. Most people still think AI is limited, that it needs constant supervision, that it cannot operate independently. But that assumption is becoming outdated. Because modern AI systems are learning how to plan, how to adapt, how to make decisions within a defined goal. And that allows them to handle more complex processes that used to require human oversight. And this is where the impact becomes much bigger. Because when AI replaces a task, it saves time. But when AI replaces a workflow, it replaces a role. And that is a completely different level of change. Now think about what this means for companies. If an AI system can handle an entire workflow, it can operate continuously. It doesn't need breaks. It doesn't need traditional training. And it can scale quickly. That creates a strong incentive. Because companies are always looking for efficiency. And if a system can produce the same output at a lower cost, adoption becomes very likely. And once adoption begins, it tends to accelerate. Because companies compete. And when one company becomes more efficient, others follow. That is how industries transform. But here is where things get even more interesting. Because this shift does not just affect companies, it affects how people fit into the workforce. If AI can handle entire workflows, then the structure of jobs begins to change. Not just what people do, but how many people are needed, and what skills matter. Instead of performing tasks directly, people may move into roles where they supervise AI systems, set goals, review outputs, and make higher-level decisions. But not every role transitions smoothly. Some roles shrink, some disappear, and new roles begin to emerge. But the transition is not always balanced, and that is where uncertainty comes in. Because not everyone can adapt at the same speed. Not every role can evolve easily, and not every industry will change in the same way. Some areas will adopt AI quickly, others will take longer, but the direction is clear. AI is moving from being a tool to becoming something more. Something that can act, something that can perform, something that can replace parts of workflows. And once that happens, the structure of jobs begins to shift. Not overnight, but steadily, and sometimes faster than expected. And that speed is what makes this moment different. Because in the past, technological change happened more gradually. People had time to adjust, to learn new skills, to transition into new roles. But AI is advancing quickly, and that means the window to adapt may be smaller. And that is why this matters. Because this is not just about technology. It is about how work is changing and how people fit into that change. Right now, companies are testing these systems behind the scenes. They are experimenting with AI agents, trying to understand what they can do, how reliable they are, and how they can be integrated into existing workflows. At first, these experiments are small, limited, controlled. But once the results become consistent, the next step is scaling. And that is when the impact becomes visible. Because scaling is what turns a capability into a standard. And once something becomes standard, it spreads quickly. Across teams, across departments, across entire industries. And that is when the shift becomes unavoidable. Because once a system proves that it works, companies do not ignore it. They adopt it. And they build around it. And that is how industries change. But there is another side to this story. Because while AI can replace workflows, it also creates new possibilities. New types of work. New types of roles. New types of industries. This has happened before. When computers were introduced. When the internet expanded. When automation changed manufacturing. Each time jobs changed. Some disappeared. Others were created. And the same could happen with AI. But the difference this time is speed. AI is improving faster than previous technologies, and that creates a gap. A gap between the jobs that are changing and the new roles that are being created. And that gap can create uncertainty. Because not everyone will transition at the same pace. Some people will adapt quickly. They will learn how to use AI, work alongside it, leverage it, and benefit from it. Others may struggle, not because they cannot adapt, but because the change is happening faster than expected. And that is what makes this moment different. Because AI is not just changing tools, it is changing workflows. And workflows define jobs. So the real question is no longer, can AI help you? That question has already been answered. The real question is, can AI do what you do? And if it can, how much of it can it take over? And if that continues to expand, how long before companies start restructuring around it? Because once that happens, the conversation changes. It is no longer about using AI. It is about competing with it, and that is a very different reality. One that is already starting to take shape. Right now, quietly, behind the scenes, but not for long. Because once these systems become reliable enough, they will not stay hidden. They will become part of everyday work, just like software tools are today. And that is when the real shift begins. When AI is no longer something you try, but something you depend on. And when that happens, the structure of work changes. The role of people changes, and the definition of a job itself begins to evolve. And that is the moment we are moving toward. Faster than most people realize.